We will build a model for brickability group, and as you can see we have income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement and key ratios. You will also notice that we have actual data and forecast data. Now when we move to the input sheet, everything in yellow the user can change. So let's change brickability's share of UK brick sales. Let's make a big increase to 50% to see the difference. And then when we go back to the summary sheet, we can see that our revenue has increased significantly. When I first started building models, for me the most difficult part was that there were no clear guidelines or standards that I could follow. And everyone was building models the way they felt like building them. And what really helped me is when I was introduced to fast modeling standards. It's an open standard, I will leave a link down below. But it's quite long, there are 70 pages of rules that you need to follow. But you don't need to worry because we will start from a blank Excel sheet and we will build step by step full model and we will discuss most of the standards along the way. Many international organizations are signatories of the FAST standard, such as PwC, Ernst & Young and many others. And the FAST stands for F, flexible, and that means our model can test different scenarios. A stands for appropriate, and that means that the model reflects key business assumptions. We don't have any unnecessary data. And S stands for structured. We have consistent layout and organization of the model, and different users and model builders can quickly navigate inside your model. And T stands for transparent. That means our model is clear and easy to understand for most people. So let's begin. In this video we will build the design of our model and the time frames. At the very top we have our time frames, and they begin with model period ending. Brickability group has unusual financial year end, which is end of March. So financial year begins on 1st of April and ends at the end of March. Then we have our actual and forecast period, so that we can see which column represents actual data and which column is forecast data. Then we have financial year ending. So for brickability group, 31st of March of 2021 will be financial year end of 2021. Then we have model column counter to see how many periods we have in total in our model. So for example, if we want to have only 2 actual periods, here we can change first model column start date to 2021. And you can see we now have only 2 actual periods, and then we have forecast data. Then for many companies you will have financial year similar to calendar year. So if you want to change this, you put 1st of January 2022 and 31st of December of 2023, and you can see we have 2 periods of actual data, and our financial year end is 31st of December. Also, you might have a scenario where you want to have semi-annual or quarterly periods, and here we can change our months per model period to 6 months, and you will have 4 semi-annual actual periods and then semi-annual forecast periods. Let's start with a blank Excel sheet, and first thing we want to do is to save our file. Let's go to File, Save As, and choose your location. I name my file in the following order: year, then months, then day, and then the name of the file, Brickability Financial Model, and version 1. This way, if you have many models, they will rank from the newest to the oldest one. Our first rule is to maintain consistent column structure across all sheets. So let's press Ctrl space to select the column, then use Shift and arrows to select the first 4 columns. And we want to decrease their size to around 7 or 8 pixels. And before we continue, let's press Ctrl A and change the font to Arial and font size 10. So we need these first 4 columns to have a hierarchy of our data. So let me show you. We have revenue in the first column, then revenue from brick sales, and then number of bricks, and average price per brick to calculate revenue from bricks. And then we have other revenue, and let's have other revenue below. This way you can see that we have top layer of revenue, then we have a subcategory of revenue from bricks and other revenue, and then we have the final layer of number of bricks and price per brick to calculate revenue from bricks, and other revenue for other revenue. This format also allows to quickly format our data. So for example, if we want to change the format of the top of our hierarchy, we just select the first column, press Ctrl space, then press Ctrl B, and our first layer is bold. Then we can select second column, press Ctrl space, then Ctrl U to underline, and our second layer is underlined. So let's delete this using shift arrows and then delete button. Our next rule is that each column should have a single and consistent purpose. So let's select column E with Ctrl space, then use Ctrl Shift and right arrow to select all data to the right, and then let's widen our column. As you can see, all our columns have widened, and let's make our column E even wider, because here we will have explanation of each line. And let's make our column H smaller, and later you will understand why we did this. Now let's type in cell F7 constant and in cell G7 unit. You will later understand why we need these columns. Use shift and left arrow to select two cells and use Ctrl B to make them bold. Click on the sheet 2 times and we can rename it to template. Now right click and you will have additional menu, and let's choose copy. Create a copy, OK. And now let's rename our new sheet to inputs. Right click and let's change the tab color. Choose more colors, and in the custom set the red color to 255, green color to 255, and blue color to 153. And you will have a yellow color that we will use for our input data. As you can see, our input sheet is now colored to yellow color. Let's go to the input sheet, and at the very top let's type in inputs. And let's change the font size to 18. Now we have a rule that we need to maintain a consistent time ruler throughout the model. So the first 4 lines of each sheet will be dedicated to our time frames. Now let's type our inputs. Our first inputs will be time inputs. So let's type time. Now we have a rule to include the dedicated instruction and comments column on input sheet. So only on the input sheet we will have H column that is wider, because here we will have explanation of where we got the source of our inputs. Let's type source, press Ctrl B to make the text bold, and Ctrl I to make it italic. Then let's type first model colon start date. We have a constant number of 1st of April 2020, and our unit is date. As you remember, Brickability has unusual year end, which begins on 1st of April and ends at the end of March. So our first colon start date is 1st of April 2020, because we will have 3 actual periods. Then let's type last actual period ending date, which is end of March 2023. And our unit is again date. And lastly, we will have months per model period. And in our case, we will have annual model, so we will have 12 months per model period. Now use shift and up arrows to select 3 cells, and at the top you can see you can click on change the color of the cells, but I suggest we use a shortcut. You can press Alt, then you can see H is for home, so press H, and then press H again to choose the fill color. And here you can see we have a recent color, the yellow color we want to use for the inputs. Now let's make one more sheet. Let's right click on the template, create a copy, and let's rename our sheet to time. Let's model the model periods. So let's type model period, and then below let's type model colon counter. our unit is counter. Now type equal and choose the H colon. And now you can see why we need this H colon. In dynamic models, certain calculations may require a zero baseline. This is the purpose of the H colon. Then type plus and 1. So we have 0 plus 1, so it is 1. You can see that we have space between each argument, and there is a rule to include spaces between arguments and formulas. And as you can see on the picture, it is easier to read a formula if there are spaces between arguments. So this formula adds 1 to the previous cell. So use Ctrl copy, then Shift and right arrows to select 10 columns, and then Ctrl V or Enter to paste. And as a result, the first cell adds 1 to 0, and we have 1, and each subsequent cell adds 1. So we have 10 columns in total. Now next rule is that we should not hide anything, except for undefined time. So after column 10, we can press Ctrl space to select a column, then Ctrl Shift and right arrow to select all columns to the right, and then right click or press on Shift F10 to open additional menu. And in the additional menu, you can click on hide, or you can see its H is underlined, and you can press H to hide all these columns. Now let's indicate where is the first column. We type first model column flag. Our unit is flag, and we will use a formula if. So type equal if, then if our model column counter is equal to 1, then it's 1, and if it is not, then it is 0. And now if we copy this formula using Ctrl C, and then Ctrl and Shift and right arrow to select all cells to the right, and Ctrl V and Enter, we pasted the formula across this line. And we now have our first model column flag. Now we want to improve our style, and at the top you can see there is a comma style in the numbers section. You can click on the comma, but I suggest to use a shortcut, which is Alt and then H to select the Home tab, and then you can see it is K to select the comma style. So Alt H K, and you have a comma style. Now we want to remove the decimal points after 1. So again, you can click on the decrease decimal button at the top, but I suggest to use the shortcut Alt H to select Home and then 9 to decrease decimal. So press Alt H9 2 times and you will remove the decimal points. Then press equal and Control page up or page down to navigate between the sheets. And let's choose first model column start date. And we have a rule to row anchor all links. So press F4 2 times and you can see we have a $sign before 8, which is our row. Now we need to Control copy, Control C, then Control Shift and right arrow to select all cells to the right, and Control V or Enter to paste our formula. Here let's press on the date and choose short date in the number section. And choose all the numbers to the right using Control Shift and right arrow. And let's again use the comma style, Alt H and K. Now I will show you why we need to row anchor our links. Let's select this link, use Shift space to select the whole line, then Control copy and Shift space and Control V or Enter to paste our link somewhere else. As you can see, because we row anchored our link, it is the same as it was. Now let's suppose that we did not row anchor our link. Let's again press equal and do the same. We move to another sheet and let's choose the first model column start date. But this time let's not anchor anything. Press enter, again Control copy, Control Shift and right arrow to select, and Control V or Enter to paste. Now if we copy this link and paste it below, you can see that our link changed because we did not anchor our row and our link is moving down. That's why we always need to anchor the rows. And now let's delete all these lines. Shift space, Shift and up arrow and delete. I suggest we go back to the template and apply comma style to the whole sheet to avoid doing the comma style every time. So Ctrl A, then Alt H and K to choose the comma style. And same with our time, let's Shift Space to select the line, then Ctrl Shift and down arrow and apply the comma style to all our cells, again using Alt H and K. Our next rule is to mark exports with red font and imports with blue font. We imported this data from input sheet and now let's color it in blue. Shift Space to select the line, and at the top you can see that we have a font color that you can click. But I again suggest to use a shortcut Alt, H and FC. Here again let's create a custom color. We just maximize blue to 255 and press OK. And we colored our font in blue. And we know that it came from another sheet. Again type equal and use Ctrl page up or down to move to another sheet and choose months per model period and press F4 2 times to raw anchor. And now use Ctrl C to copy and Ctrl Shift and right arrow to select and Ctrl V or enter to paste. Again, let's remove zeros by pressing Alt H9, or you can just click on the decrease decimal button above. Now Shift Space to select the whole row, and again let's color in blue by pressing on Alt H and FC and choosing the recent blue color. Type equal, choose first model colon flag, press F4 2 times to raw anchor, Ctrl C to copy, Ctrl Shift right arrow to select, and Ctrl V or enter to paste. Again, let's decrease decimals with Alt H and 9 2 times. Then type model period beginning. Our unit is date. Type if formula, and if our first model colon flag is 1, then it will be our first model colon start date. Anchor our colon by pressing on F4 3 times. And if it is not, then we will use a date formula. And the date formula allows us to return a specific calendar date. Let's type in the formula and then discuss what it does. So we type in year and choose cell H14, then months, again choose H14, and add months per model period, which is 12 months. And again, anchor our colon by pressing F4 3 times. And then day, and type in 1. Now press Ctrl C to copy, Ctrl Shift right arrow to select, and Ctrl V or enter to paste. Now in the number section, let's change our data to short date. We anchor the columns of our constant data, like first model colon start date, which is 1st of April 2020, and months per model period of 12 months, because we do not want this data to move. It is a constant data and we need to fix it. So we fix the columns of this data. Then the date formula is quite straightforward. We just add 12 months to the previous date. So if you look at our first date of 1st of April 2020, the next cell should be 1st of April 2021. So we just added 12 months to the previous date. And we got our first calculation block. And we have a rule to construct all calculations in a separate calculation block. In a calculation block, the last line is where we do the calculation, and everything that is needed to calculate this last line is available in the calculation block. So we don't need to jump around inside the model to find the numbers, because everything that is needed is in the calculation block. Next rule is to calculate only once. So if we ever need a model period beginning calculation, we will just refer to this calculation of model period beginning. Next, we have a rule to list precedents in the order they appear in the formula. In simple terms, if you look at the picture on the right, items in the formula are listed in order in calculation block. But then you will ask why first model column flag is the first item in the formula, but last item in the calculation block. This is because we have an exception that we need to have our calculation block in a pyramid layout. Look at the picture on the right. If there are constant items, they will be placed first in the calculation block to avoid breaking the pyramid layout. We will build many calculation blocks and you will get the idea along the way. Now we need to model period ending. So let's select months per model period, shift space, control copy, and then shift space and enter or control V to paste. We need to discuss important rule that we should never make a link to an existing link. We should always make our links to the source of our data. So let me demonstrate you what a link to link is. Press equal and choose months per model period. Press F4 2 times to raw anchor. Control Shift and right arrow to select and Control V or enter to paste. Now we have two links. The first one is to the source and the second one is a link to link. And the difference is when we delete the link to link will disappear because now it doesn't have anything to refer to. But our link to source will remain because it is a link to the source. Let's delete our link to link and continue. Type equal, choose model period beginning, 2 times F4 to raw anchor, Control copy, Control Shift right arrow to select, and Control V or enter to paste. Let's select our data with Control Shift and right arrow and choose short date in the number section. Then let's type model period ending. Our unit is date. It's equal to, again, let's use formula date. Let's type in the formula and then discuss. So we have year, which is model period beginning. We have months, which is also model period beginning. And we add 12 months and fix the colon by pressing on F4 3 times. And then day, which is also model period beginning, -1. Then press Control copy, Control Shift and right arrow to select, and Control V or enter to paste. Now this formula might seem complicated, but it is really straightforward. We just added 12 months to our model period beginning. And why we decrease by 1 day? Because as you can see, if we do not decrease by 1 day, we will just have 1st of April of next year, because we added exactly 12 months. But if we decrease by 1 day, we get our model period ending, which is 31st of March. Now we have next rule to use timing flags. So let's type actuals and forecast periods and model our timing flags. So type in equal, move to another page and choose last actual period ending date. Raw anchor, Control C to copy, Control Shift right arrows to select, and Control V or enter to paste. Change the date format to short date and Shift space to select row, Alt H F C and choose the latest font. We colored in blue because it comes from another page. Type equal, choose model period ending, press F4 2 times to raw anchor, Control C to copy, Control Shift right arrow to select, and Control V or enter to paste. Now again, let's select with Control Shift and right arrow our dates. And now instead of clicking on the number format, let's use the shortcut of Alt H and N. And then using the arrows, choose the short date and press enter. Now let's type last actual closing balance flag. Our unit is flag. And again, let's use the if formula. So if our last actual period ending date, let's anchor colons by pressing F3 3 times, is equal to the model period ending, then our flag is 1. And if it is not, then our flag is 0. Press enter, Control C to copy, Control Shift and right arrow to select, and Ctrl V or Enter to paste. Decrease the decimals by pressing on the button above or using the shortcut Alt H9. And we got our last actual closing balance flag. Now let's calculate our actual period flag. Let's take last actual period ending date, Shift space to select the row, Ctrl C to copy, and then again Shift space to select the row where we want to insert our data, and Ctrl V or Enter to paste. Let's discuss how to make links to the source to avoid making links to links. You remember the rule? So there are two ways to make a link to the source. First is to make a link to the source, and second is to copy existing link to the source. So let me show you the first way. We type in equal and select our source, type F4 two times to row anchor, Ctrl C to copy, and Ctrl Shift right arrow to select, and Ctrl V or Enter to paste. We created a link to the source. And second way is to copy existing link to the source. You can see this is a link to the source. We Shift space to select the row, Ctrl C to copy, Shift space and Ctrl V or Enter to paste. As you can see, we have a link to the source. Now we type in actual period flag. Our unit is flag, and let's type the if formula. So if our last actual period ending date, let's anchor the columns by pressing on F4 three times, is more than or equal to model period ending, then it is a actual period. And if it is not, then 0. Ctrl C, Ctrl Shift right arrow to select, and Ctrl V or Enter to paste. Remove the decimals with the shortcut Alt H9, and we got our actual period flag. Now let's model forecast period flag. Type in equal, choose model period ending, row anchor, Ctrl C, Ctrl Shift right arrow, and Ctrl V or Enter to paste. Again, select the dates, and using the shortcut Alt H and N, and down arrows to select short date and Enter. Then type equal to actual period flag, row anchor by pressing F4 two times, Ctrl C to copy, Ctrl Shift right arrow to select, and Ctrl V or Enter to paste. Remove the decimals with Alt H9. Then we have forecast period flag. Our unit is flag, and we have a very simple formula. If our actual period flag is equal to 1, then it is 0. And if it is not, then 1. And close the bracket, Ctrl C to copy, Ctrl Shift right arrow to select, and Ctrl V or Enter to paste. So if it is not an actual period, then it means it is a forecast period, and we can remove the decimal points with Alt H9. Copy the actual period flag with Shift space to select the row, Ctrl C, then choose where you want to paste it, Shift space to select the row, and Ctrl V or Enter to paste. Now let's type in actual versus forecast period. Again, unit is flag. And let's type in formula. If our actual period flag is 1, then it is a actual period. And if it is not, then it is a forecast period. Close the bracket, Ctrl C, Ctrl Shift right arrow, and Ctrl V or Enter to paste. We have built multiple calculation blocks, and you will notice that all our formulas are simple. And there is a rule that you should not have a formula that is longer than your term. And the second rule, that no formula should take more than 24 seconds to explain. Now let's type in financial year end, and we will try to model financial year. So let's take model period ending, Shift space to select row, Ctrl C to copy, Shift space, and Ctrl V or Enter to paste. Then let's type financial year ending. Our unit is year, and we have a simple formula equal to year, and in brackets let's choose model period ending and close the brackets. Ctrl C, Ctrl Shift right arrow to select, and Ctrl V or enter to paste. Now let's change our format, Alt H N, and use the general format and press enter. That's it for the timesheet. Let's Shift space to select the row, Ctrl Shift and down arrow, and right click or Shift F10 to open additional menu, and click on hide or use the H key. We have a formula that we should not hide anything except for undefined time, which should be hidden. So on the right is undefined time, and I kind of break this rule by hiding everything at the bottom, but I think it makes the model look a little bit cleaner. Now we can model our time frames. Choose model period ending, Shift space, Ctrl C, choose line 2, Shift space and Ctrl V or enter to paste. Before we forgot, let's name our sheet time. Then let's add actual versus forecast period. So type in equal, choose actual versus forecast, type F4 two times to row anchor, Ctrl C to copy, Ctrl Shift right arrow to select, and Ctrl V or enter to paste. Then we will have financial year ending, type in equal, choose financial year ending, press F4 two times, Ctrl C, Ctrl Shift right arrow, and Ctrl V or enter to paste. Select the numbers, Ctrl Shift right arrow, then press Alt H N and choose the general format. And finally we have a model colon counter, type equal, choose model colon counter, press F4 two times, Ctrl C, Ctrl Shift right arrow, and Ctrl V or enter to paste. And again Alt H K to change to comma style, and Alt H9 to remove the decimal points. Now select the cell I6 and we want to freeze our columns and rows. So what it does, when we freeze panes, we freeze the lines above our selected cell and we fix the columns to the left of our selected cell. So now when we move down or to the right, our cells at the top and on the left will remain fixed. Now let's add time frames to our template. Choose cell E2, type equal, go back to timesheet and choose model period ending source data. And type F4 two times to row anchor. Then again press equal, go back to the timesheet and choose actual versus forecast source data. F4 two times, then again equal, go back to timesheet and choose financial year ending source data and press F4 two times. Again equal and choose model colon counter and press F4 two times. Now let's hide unnecessary columns, which is column S, and then Ctrl Shift and right arrow to select, and right click or Shift F10, and here you can hide the columns. Now using Shift and down arrow we can select our data, then Ctrl C, then Ctrl Shift and right arrow to select, and Ctrl V or enter to paste. Choose the dates with Ctrl Shift and right arrow and Alt H and N, and with down arrows select short date and press enter. Then using Shift and down arrow, select financial year ending and model colon counter, then Ctrl Shift and right arrow to select, and Alt H N and choose the general format. Now select our time frames, Shift space, then Shift and up arrow, and Ctrl C to copy. And go to the input sheet, choose row 2, Shift space, and Ctrl V or enter to paste. And we pasted our time frames in the input sheet. Now click on the S column, Ctrl Shift and right arrow, and Shift F10 to open additional menu, and click on hide or just press H key. Now let's freeze panes in the input sheet. Again, choose I6 cell and choose the freeze panes. Same in the template. Again, choose I6 cell, and in the View tab, you can freeze the panes. We are done. We can go to the input sheet, and as you can see, if we change first column start date to 2021, our time frame has changed accordingly. That's it. You can download our current progress or full model using the link below, and in the next video we will input historical data. Thank you.